Hello. In this video, we're going to go over how to answer the reading portion of the ACT in a very efficient way. I'm actually not going to answer all of these questions. I want to keep this video short enough, but still give you the general approach that's going to be helpful on most of these reading sections. So what I like to do, and what's helpful for so many students, is pretty much just going over this information right here, right? Like this pretext, quote unquote. And then from there, jumping right to the questions that tell you where to read. And I'll elaborate on that moving forward. But I'll start here. Prose fiction. This passage is adapted from the title story of Only the Little Bone, a collection of short stories by David Huddle. And then this first preamble here is my grandfather has made crutches for me. These are sturdy crutches, just the right size. I'm delighted with them and launch myself around the house on them. Okay, so I kind of have a general idea of what's going on. It's a grandson. He's talking about crutches that his grandfather built for him or made for him, and that it's one of a few short stories. And now I look at number one. Now, here's the thing about number one. It's so tempting to answer it because it's the first question, right? But this is a question. Look at what it's asking. The passage is written from the point of view of. And if I look through all of these answers, all I know right now is that it's the grandson. And it's actually going to take the entire story to read to really realize what that is, or at least reading most of it. And to read the whole passage to answer one question doesn't make sense from an efficiency standpoint. So I'm actually going to skip all of these general idea questions and wait till I hit something like number 6 that's asking me to go to specific parts of the passage, line 65 to 66. So I want to read this question, the possible answer choices, and then dive in. The question, did you know that Bryant built his shelves so they tilt, line 65 to 66, helps establish that the narrator is anxious because F, his coworkers have discovered his incompetence and have made it the subject of office humor. His coworkers resent his having a corner office and punish him with their biting humor. He fears his incompetence is so glaring it will make him the object of ridicule among coworkers. J, the tilting bookshelves remind him that, like his grandfather, he cannot hide his mistakes. Well, let's jump to it and see what's up. So it's 65 to 66, and it's all part of this general big paragraph. So I'm actually going to kind of read a little bit before it and a little bit past it. The whole time I work, I wait to see where the screw up is going to come. I imagine what my colleagues will be saying about me in the hallways. Did you know that Bryant built his shelves so that they can tilt? Did you know that Bryant's books rejected the color of the paint they painted his shelves? Okay, so let's look at our answer choices again. F, his coworkers have discovered his incompetence and have made it the subject of his office humor. Where they're asking, the question's asking, helps establish that the narrator is anxious because, well, he hasn't even done it yet. He's worried about future tense. So F is acting like it already happened. So that doesn't make sense. G, resent his having a corner office. They didn't say anything about that. There's no thing about him resenting. You don't see words like resentment, anything like that. H, he fears his incompetence is so glaring it will make him the object of ridicule among coworkers. That seems like it's pretty accurate because it hasn't happened yet. He mentions like a quote about ridicule. Could be the answer. J, the tilting bookshelves remind him that, like his grandfather, he cannot hide his mistakes. So this is while he's working, though. So once again, this is already assuming that something's done, and that's just not the case. You're left with H. Let's try that one more time, but with 7. Information in the second paragraph, lines 4 through 12, reveals that the family's response to the grandfather's error with crutches is to A, find a workable remedy for it, B, lay the blame on the narrator, C, praise him for more successful projects, D, fix what wasn't wrong in the first place. So let's jump to 4 through 12. We already read 1 through 3, so we can just jump to 4. And I also want to note that 12 is going to be this entire paragraph here. And continue falling several times a day. Great splatting, knocking into furniture and breaking things. Falls that cause everyone in the family to come running. My grandfather has forgotten to put rubber tips on the ends of my crutches. When we figure this out and buy the rubber tips and put them on the crutches, I stop falling. But by then, the bone set that was coming along nicely had slipped, and the doctor ordered me back to the wheelchair. All right, so let's take a look. Which one of these makes sense? A, find a workable remedy for it. That's what they did. Tempting answer. B, lay the blame on the narrator. You don't see anything about them blaming the kid or saying that it's his fault. Nothing like that even comes up. There's no text to support that. Praise him for more successful projects. There's not even praise put in here either. There's no blame or praise put into that paragraph. D, fix what wasn't wrong in the first place. Well, there was something that was wrong in the first place. And so it seemed like it was actually the proper solution. So that doesn't make sense. And now we're with A. And not only did we answer 6 and 7, we also now have a better idea of what this passage is asking us or what it's about. 8, can most reasonably be inferred from the 6th paragraph, lines 36 to 46. So that's going to be here to here, that the statement that the basketball hoop can't be made smaller in line 40, which is right here, is, in one of these options, a fact stated by the grandfather apologetically, an opinion stated by the grandfather indignantly, H, a claim the narrator makes to humiliate a relative, J, a conclusion the narrator reaches after hard labor. Well, let's see what's up. I say simply that they are too big. I am not ungrateful. I'm not trying to be hateful. Not in my opinion being overly fastidious. I am simply describing a characteristic of the hoops. But my grandfather's feelings are damaged. No, they can't be made smaller, and no, they're not interested in helping me with the backboards now or with any part of my plan. He's sorry he got involved in the first place. This too is a corollary of flawed competence. We are sensitive, especially about our work, especially about the flawed part of our work. So generally speaking, we see that there's something wrong with the hoop that grandpa built, and grandson pointed it out. So what we see here is the line that can't be made smaller. What's the context now of that statement? Is it a fact stated by the grandfather apologetically? No, there's not. He doesn't say sorry. He's not asking to correct it. He's actually saying that it doesn't make sense. An opinion stated by the grandfather indignantly. I'm going to be very honest. I didn't even know what that word meant when I first read this, so I actually skipped this. So let me go through that process again. H, a claim that the narrator makes to humiliate a relative. I mean, it can be inferred that his feelings are hurt and he's trying to hurt someone else's feelings. That's maybe an easy assumption to make, but that's just not what happens. And there's nothing in the text to say that he's trying to humiliate him or that he felt humiliated, that there was a backhanded comment, nothing like that. J, a conclusion that the narrator reaches after hard labor. So that's not what the case is. We can see in the text that that probably could be made smaller. It's just something that he doesn't want to do because his feelings have been hurt, as they saw there. And then we're left with G anyways. And it turns out that indignantly means that you're saying something from a place of being hurt or embarrassed. And so that definitely makes sense with 8 being G, because hurt and embarrassed, that's what is supported in the text, that he's sensitive, right? Especially about the flawed part of our work. So 6, 7, and 8 are answered. We have a better idea of what this passage is, and we haven't even read the whole passage, which now it's not necessarily mean that we can now automatically go back to number 1, but in this case, I'm going to show you how it actually can help us in number 1. So 1, the passage is written from the point of view of, all right, let's look at our answer choices. An unidentified narrator observing the relationship over time between a boy and his grandfather. No, we know it's the grandson himself. So it's not some random person from third person. B, 2 members of the family discovering their shared trait through joint activities. That kind of makes sense in some of these instances, but they're not even building things together. But that's a tempting answer. I'll keep it there for now. C, a grown man agonizing over the mixed messages he's received as a child from older relatives. The key word here is agonizing. There's nothing that we've read, and if you skim through the text here, and this may be a time where you can go through the text, you don't see anything that's synonymous with agonizing in terms of how he's receiving the messages or the messages he's getting. He's very matter of fact in all of those. So C is not going to be the right answer. And then D, a boy and the man he becomes considering incidents that illustrate a family trait. Well, I like this answer a lot because it talks about when he's a boy, that's right when he starts, right? And then when he becomes a man, because you can see here that he's building a shelf and he's worried about his coworkers. So we read that story already. So we can see that actually happens. And so there's direct text supporting this. Whereas B is more of an inference because there is no, discovering. That's the key word here, where they're feeling like, oh, hey, we high five. We got the same thing. Like, that's not what's going on here. It's simply them not even having shared activities, but simply the grandson critiquing Grandpa's his projects. So now we're left with D. We haven't even read the whole passage. And you can take that same approach with all of these other terms. Now, because we have an outline of what the general story is about, where different elements of the story are, it's easier to know where to skim for certain keywords when you go through 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, and 10. So best of luck. Approach this with any reading comprehension style question, which can also appear in the English portion of the ACT. And this is actually very applicable to any standardized reading section. Best of luck.